You know, I'm not opposed to second chances. I feel like in relationships they can be healthy if they're accompanied by accountability and responsibility, except if there's like no trust or somebody cheated, then that's completely different. I feel like in entertainment, there's a place for it too. Some of my favorite games succeeded because I, or someone with much more money than I, gave them another chance or a shot to make things better. For instance, the original Streets of Rage is not the best beat 'em up game of all time. Legendary music, sure, but out the gate, it didn't grab my friends or I because we felt the controls were a bit clunky and there was a lack of agility from the characters we controlled. That was a turnoff. The edginess of it being an adult-themed game wasn't enough to keep us playing it. It wasn't until Streets of Rage 2 launched that we felt compelled to grind the game, no pun intended. More mechanics and agility-based character with some iconic moves. Skate. Like Axel, Blaze, Max, but Skate. I had to explain that, right? And more creativity on how representation matters. Skate. And more creativity on how to approach fighting the bad guys made the game finally land with us. We never fought over characters either. No one had an issue picking Axel, Blaze, Skate, or Max because they were all fun and different. And the music, the one thing consistent from the first game, was even better. It immediately made me appreciate the older game, and the franchise is now one of my favorites of all time. And that was cemented even further with the fan-made Streets of Rage remake and the Dotemu mastered Streets of Rage 4. Here's another example. The original Street Fighter was bad. No, okay. Stop. The original Street Fighter was objectively bad. I'll prove it. It was almost impossible to do special moves or character inputs. Yeah, I'm mashing fireball. I'm mashing fireball. Down forward punch. Down forward punch. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. My thumb hurts. My thumb like really hurts. Like I don't think y'all understand how much I'm like churning right now. The characters had randomized damage numbers so you can die, be stunned in 2 hits. The hurricane kick. Oh. Why did that hit me so bad? Okay. What? And almost every person revisiting it on YouTube considers it a rage game as far as being competent enough to cheese the computer in arcade mode. Street Fighter 2 landed in arcades with more defined characters, moves that actually worked, and it became a literal household name. Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Blanca, Gao, etc. All the characters radically different, but helped to spark a competitive scene for fighting games that is still thriving to this day with newer iterations of that game, along with other fighting games like Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat. Okay, a third example for you. And stay with me here. The original Sonic the Hedgehog was a chore to play. It was a concept built on speed and going fast, but the game punished you for it with block puzzles, treacherous jumps and gaps out of nowhere, and no real way to generate the speed you wanted out of the gate. The music, ironically, was still a selling point, and the general popularity of Sonic was enough for Sega to spin the block with Sonic 2. But this time, they introduced the Spin Dash, a mechanic to solve that speed issue, and made the controls more precise. They also added Tails, and dropped in more iconic music that may or may not have had contributions by Michael Jackson, and boom, magic. One of my favorite games and soundtracks of all time. Even Donkey Kong Country, the Super Nintendo outing for Donkey and Diddy Kong had— Stop it. That's not right. Donkey Kong Country was fire. Rare didn't make early mistakes. I'd argue that Rare was flawless until they stopped getting support from Nintendo because of Conker's Bad Fur Day. But that's just a theory, okay? And not the point of this video. I'm saying all of this to say that I'm not averse to games and companies having to lock back in to get it right. There's politics involved with all the games I've mentioned, sure, but at that time we could let companies lead with the product first and then make our decisions, at least from the outside looking in. The earlier games of my childhood were allowed to fail initially, but they failed upwards. And for the most part, they didn't make the same mistakes twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. And that's pretty much why I haven't posted any recent Bungie content on this channel. Look, Bungie's always been the elephant in the room for this channel, King LJTV. When I was active on Destiny 2, I was one of the biggest contributors to my friend groups for content. I'd hop into raids with others, then bring back the mechanics to my raid group who weren't as advanced as others. I enjoyed being the Sherpa in that sense, and it translated over to the gaming videos, along with the chaotic moments and the all-around good vibes of us just playing as a magic space pirate with friends. Even when the videos didn't do well, I had so much fun with them that it didn't really feel like work. We had clan wars. Oh, stop, hold on. Destiny has clans, and we'd have like multiplayer Crucible matches for a few hours on end, not like the other clan that the president's probably empowered. We had clan matches, first time reactions to missions and games, and the like. I know I said generally speaking when the videos didn't do well I had fun, but the videos always had legs for me. They always did great. Unlike my Dead Cells gameplay, which you guys just won't give a chance. I could easily jump back into Destiny 2 for the content right now. I haven't touched the game since Final Shape, and me pulling a Drake, what did I miss? Is an interesting enough idea. They made Titans more viable with my favorite subclass, Arc, and I also have all 3 classes at decent levels, so I even still have a couple of friends that's playing it, and I installed it recently. I blocked off like 976 gigs to download it and all the DLC. I rounded up a couple gigs for that joke. Not by much though, not by much. For some reason, however, I can't bring myself to jump back in. I want to, but as much as I want to, I don't think I can. Not sure. I've always compared Destiny 2 specifically to a toxic relationship. I have running jokes for this game being a beta that we've been playing for 10 years. I regularly slam on the sweaty PvP community because there's such a disconnect between them and the rest of Deep 2's eco structure. It's like a damn shame. Fireteams being limited to 3 players is still a puzzling decision to me. Gambit not being locked to loadouts is still a ridiculous balance oversight. Trials of Osiris should not only be renamed to Trials of Saint 14, but the game mode is so obnoxiously sweaty that it'll probably never be fun for casuals that just want good guns locked in the playlist. Bungie's cheat system on PC has the consistency of 2-ply toilet paper from Dollar General after it's been soaked for 5 minutes, but yet I'm still here looking at videos from Mastercross and Fallout Plays because I like watching people enjoy things, and ever so slowly, in their exploitation, I mean enjoyment. That is a joke. That is a joke. My God, that is a joke. Don't tag these dudes in my comments on some bull. Anyway, in their enjoyment, I'm noticing Bungie cobbling together some semblance of progression, addressing the issues we've had over the last 10 years. Finally, I should be excited, or at least relieved to finally see the fruits of our constructive criticism being heeded, right? When I think about it, some of my best gaming highs were on Bungie video games. From the Halo series and multiplayer LAN parties with friends that would last all night, to watching my cousins run the legendary campaign for the first time, and seeing us all flip out when the flood came in, to in-game difficulty activities with Trav and Jamal on Destiny 2, or getting my old clan their first raid clears and hearing the elation from folks that thought they'd never get enough people together on the same page to accomplish it. There's so many great moments Bungie's provided me over the years, and that's why it sucks to say I'm probably over it. And there's 2 reasons, well 3. The first, I mean, you can say the politics, sure. P. Parsons bought 2 cars while I was writing the script, so that's valid. And that's not even deep diving into the issues Bungie's had in the public eye with firing teams, writers, artists, and musicians that helped build them up. I'm trying to not lean into that angle for now, but I'd be lying if I said that didn't sour my perception of Bungie as a whole. It's hard for me to enjoy a game that doesn't take care of the people that love it, you know? The repeated theft of ideas from others online thing doesn't help their case much either. The second thing has to do with Bungie running an unfortunate masterclass on the difference between listening to feedback and comprehending/applying it. They say they're listening all the time, but rarely do the correct people at Bungie seem to register and act on the constructive criticism that they've been handed in spades. The disconnect between the people listening and the people putting it into action has always been stark from the outside looking in. And even as we speak, there's events that aren't hitting the mark and expansions coming up that seem to disregard some of the things that players have been longing for. It's a theme as consistent as Republicans being loud to get their point across, and there's no real reason to believe it's going to change soon. Bungie has showed an aggressive inability to consistently read the room and pay attention to what their fan base is saying about their game. And maybe that's the fault of the toxic people that keep lambasting them on social media. I don't know. It just all feels circular to me. The third reason ties back into the games I mentioned earlier. The time gap for games then versus now was a little shorter. There's several outside reasons for this, but the bottom line was this: we got to see the improvement actively. Streets of Rage was released August 2nd, 1991. The sequel dropped December 15th, 1992, 16 months later. Sonic the Hedgehog released initially in June of 91, and Sonic 2 dropped November the next year, with an almost identical release cycle. This one could be a bit of a stretch depending on how you look at it, but even Street Fighter 1 was released in 1987, and Street Fighter 2 dropped in 91, 4 years later. And then they remixed it 97 times. But again, who's counting? Whatever. Those companies showed they were able to put their head down, fix issues, and release great games. Asterisk. I didn't find out until after I wrote this that Street Fighter 2 was initially supposed to come out in 88 or 89, but something weird happened, it delayed, but the delay turned out to be a good thing. I still think it helps to keep my point, but just know that I'm aware of it. All right, cool. If we hold Bungie to that same standard with Destiny 2, there's been a 10-year game cycle with so many of the same issues still present. Maybe that's because of the live service angle the game took, which, side note, could be why they canned the original story direction of the game a year before its release. One of the things they were saying was that it was too linear, too compact. Maybe they were trying to stretch it over 10 years. Or maybe it was Activision forcing an angle. Or maybe it was Bungie executives just being overly confident that their workers would be okay with ridiculous time crunches. I mean, I don't know, dog. It's a lot going on over there, man. Regardless, all of that leaves me here with the game installed, but no real will to play or dive back in. For me, there's no real trust in the company to truly care and be consistent about the things we love from the franchise. And I truly love seeing second chances work out, but the motivation to give them that option, at least right now, is long gone. Sadly, that last point is more of a self-inflicted gunshot from Bungie's actions or inactions than anything. But to be fair, Bungie has always nailed gunplay in their games. You think that bar's gonna land? It's alright. Whatever.